So what has Lewe proved? Everything. Water exists. Observation in nature, water exists. Are you happy? Conjecture, water must exist. What I'm saying is that if water doesn't exist, then nothing exists. Water is fundamental to life, and we know that it is, and therefore that's my assumption. Water must exist. Can I prove it? Yes. Lewe proves it. And Lewe proved it in 1915. And I want you to think about the consequences of that piece of information that you now know. Water must have a surface. Think about this. Imagine an infinite ocean of water. You're inside it. And you're surrounded by this infinite ocean of water. Where's the surface? It's infinite. What that means is that it does have a surface. But if you swam for eternity, as fast as you possibly could, you'd never get there. Because of the vector changes that are occurring as you try to move through it. So, from your perspective, as a small thing in an infinite ocean, from your perspective, the surface doesn't exist. But it must exist. And so what is the impact of that from you inside this infinite ocean? Well, it means that the surface exists. It creates a surface inside itself. A bubble of oxygen forms through motion. In this infinite ocean, everything's moving. It's water. The molecules just move around. So difference is created, and we know from lovely Mr. Heisenberg's turbulence that there'll be difference, and so an oxygen bubble forms. And inside that oxygen bubble, it forms a surface. And so if you can picture it, and it forms the surface at a subatomic scale. So inside each atom there's a surface of water. So to picture the oxygen bubble as a zero, and picture a dot in the middle, so that if infinite ocean is on the outside of the oxygen bubble, and it's just appearing here in this center, in the single, the time particle I called it, it appears in there, and it creates a surface. And that surface is in motion in a wave pattern, and it creates that yin-yang pattern that Lewe has proven through his matrix calculus at the end of his dissertation. And I just took that and drew on the visualization showing how it works. And it shows it's just simply intermediate axis. So because the surface that we've created now in the center, can you see it nice and clearly? Just make it big in your mind, the time particle. There's a surface across its equator, and that surface is moving anti-clockwise with two whirlpools, it looks like, from your perspective, moving around. That's the surface. That's the z-axis. If you draw the three axes, that's the z-axis. The x-axis is created by just imagine a sphere behind it, and that's spinning, a flat disk, and that creates the sphere. And that's the spin of the universe. The oxygen bubble on the outside represents this oxygen bubble spinning on the outside, so the center axis is spinning at the same velocity c, spinning, creating the sphere. And in front, and that's the x-axis, and now the y-axis is created from that sphere. The rotation, as it moves round, it moves into where the energy is. It moves from meters per second squared to meters squared per second. It's where the mass is greater than the energy, and that's where there's an exchange of energy through orbital angular momentum. That's why it's a conserved quantity. It's created. It exists. It's the energy being created. And that creates genuine three dimensions on the y-axis through orbital motion, which is slow. And then because it's slow, and And in that space, everything's happening. The electromagnetic field has been created. And now you can see that you've just got 3 axes, but they can't overlap. So the motion of this wave in the center that's been created in the center of the bubble of the infinite ocean can't overlap the 3 axes. And so you'll see from some of the other pirates have drawn some imaging showing how the maths builds up these 3 circle images, and you can shape them so many different ways, and it works because it's all infinite layers. The way that it works is the energy exchange moves through so many different layers, each time slowing and slowing and slowing, putting a brake on this infinite energy, that by the time it gets out to a layer that we call the Earth, it's slow enough that everything starts to be aware. Wow, I'm moving. Because that's your soul. That's where it's created. It's the infinite ocean on the outside has found a way to get into the time particle, the one single time particle that exists, and that exists in you. It's your life, and it exists in everything. Once it's in an entity that's separate and enclosed, it just it condenses into a single point that exists inside you as your energy. And so it means that when the bubble dies, stops working, when that bubble stops working, the energy just goes back to the infinite ocean again. So as well as proving that water must exist, Lewe's proved that there's not even life after death. There's no death. There's just matter doing its thing, nature going through its work, and we're the energy enjoying the experience, playing out our lives, taking part in a society, choosing how to behave. If we chose to behave really well, really, really nicely, and I mean really nicely, really force yourself to be super nice to everything, the planet will speed up. And that the magnetic pole switch, which is coming, which is currently being held fast through the lies of science and the machines that they've built. And let me just give you this last thought. CERN, collider, smashing particles of gold. And think about what that means for your energy. Because there's one time particle of infinite quality, and some of it's not great, some of it's quite gross, some of it is wonderful. It's called mass energy, gold. If you smash it apart, you damage the time particle, and that time particle exists inside you, so it damages your psyche and damages us all. And Lewe proved it in 1915, and now we've proved it again. But this time, we've really proved it. Welcome to the future. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. It's all going to be all right. Adults are back in charge. Love rules. Do the work. Choose.